Shalom, Kol Halayimla, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakal Kadash. All praises be to the Most High, Yahweh, in the name of His Son, and our Lord and Savior, Yahushai. Much respect and honor to the brothers that are doing the work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and freedom to do so, and pushing this gospel throughout the four corners of the earth. Salutations to the hopeful elect that are scattered abroad, and double honors and respect to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. Coming back at you with another lesson entitled, The Feet of the Bear Marks the End of Esau Edom's Kingdom. So we're going to go into the video, but before we do, we're going to go into what the feet represent. Let's go to Daniel, book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 41. So the feet, we'll start at 31. The feet represents the end of an empire, the end of global dominion under Edom, Esau, the revised Roman Empire. Book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 31. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet of iron, and part of clay. So the head represents the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, the breast of silver, the Medes and Persian Empire, his belly and his thighs of brass, the Greeks or the Grecian Empire, his legs of iron, the Roman Empire, and his feet of iron and part of clay. So now we are in the revised Roman Empire, which is headed by the European Union and NATO, the head of that great red dragon. And now we are in the feet, which represents the end of the heathen and Gentile nations' rulership. The times of the Gentiles is almost fulfilled. So part of iron, Edomites, remnants of the revised Roman Empire, and part of clay, joined into the other nations, or seeds of men. Let's keep going. So we're in the feet. Excuse me, one moment. Let's go to Daniel 2 and 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So this kingdom is divided, which are the feet and toes of the revised Roman Empire, which marks the end of an age, the end of Esau Edom's kingdom of rulership. 2nd Esdras 6 and 9 tell us Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow. Verse 43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So these other nations are fighting against one another and the Edomite nations are fighting against Edomite nations. Esau, Edom against Esau, Edom. Let's go more into these feet. So we're at the end of their rulership. Let's go here first. Revelations, book of Revelations 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So this is the Roman Empire, the 4th great beast, having great iron teeth, which is a strong, dominant military power. So it's rising up out of the sea. What does that sea represent? Let's go to Revelations 17:15. Revelation 17:15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. So the European Union is that beast, and the 10 horns are the NATO nations that are joined unto the beast. Verse 17. For the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. So they're going to conspire together with the feet of the bear, Russia, and Iran. They're going to conspire to shoot missiles over to America. Lady Liberty, the great whore, that sitteth upon many nations, peoples, multitudes, and tongues. So now we're at the end of their empire. So what is Rome? That's the beast that rose up out of the sea. And in ancient Rome, you had Germania Major. Well, it started with the Greek Empire. Then you had Germania Major, Germania Minor, Rome, France, Spain, and Great Britain. Full of names of blasphemy, paganism, false god worship or deity worship, idolatry. Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So the Edomites came into rulership under Alexander the Greek. That is the leopard, the Grecian Empire, around 330 BC. So it started under the Greeks, the leopard, and it's going to end by the bear, the feet of the bear, the Russians, which is divided against the 10 toes, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. So the policies of the international bankers or global elites comes out of Great Britain, the United Kingdom, or its monarch. And they also use a lion as their symbol. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So now, under the revised Roman Empire, they have a global military, economic, political, and religious system. They have a global enterprise. So this great red dragon is the revised Roman Empire, the second leg of the revised Roman Empire. But it is divided against itself. So let's go back. We're going to let the video play, and then we'll go to some more scriptures and close out. Let's continue.
Video, I want to share very important information with you guys, which in my view clearly shows that something huge is about to happen in Russia. Okay, let's connect the dots to paint a full picture in our minds. It seems that all countries bordering on the European side with Russia are building secure defenses in the name to protect those countries from immigrants. Let me ask you, what immigrants? This is a cover story for something much bigger. It is clear that those countries bordering with Russia are building those secure defenses in the place where WW3 is about to start. What is the point to spend nearly 500 million US dollars on the border defense when there is very little flow of any kind of refugees? Here is Russia. The reason why we are looking at this map is that I want to show you that Russia is in deep trouble. I want you guys to have a clear picture in your mind, because all the other information in this video and in my new video will be directly related to this map. To prevent an attack on Russia, Putin is placing all kinds of missiles, including nuclear ones, and missile defense systems all along the border with Ukraine. Putin is placing S-400 missile defense systems around Moscow. Also in Moscow we have mobile vehicles with nuclear missiles patrolling Moscow streets. We have S-400 missile defense systems put there along Finland, and we have S-300 and S-400 missile defense systems here in Kaliningrad. Then we have S-300 missile defense systems stationed in Belarus. And the most recent announcement by Russia to station S-300 and S-400 missile defense systems in Crimea, when we had the biggest NATO military drills and military training on the land, water and in the air. We have Obama and NATO activated the missile defense shield in the United States, in Israel, in Poland, in Romania, in the Sea of Spain, and we have US radars in Norway and in Turkey. On top of that, we have Germany and Netherlands working on their own joint missile defense shield. Then we have one of the Baltic states getting a missile defense shield from the United States. Then we have missile defense systems on ships in the Baltic Sea, in the Black Sea, and in the Sea of Spain. When we have the conflict escalating in Ukraine on the border with Crimea, when we have the conflict escalating in Syria, it is obvious that the stage is set for global conflict.
So, and this is a video that I borrowed from GMS Dallas. So, you're seeing the kingdom of Edom divided, and we're in the feet of the revised Roman Empire. I want to talk about this map. So, Russia, at one point in time, up until November 1989, these nations were all a part of the Soviet Union, like Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan. So these are all nations that in the ancient world was a part of the Medo-Persian Empire. And in modern times, Russia has aligned itself with Syria and Iran. So it is a guard unto these nations. It's a guard unto Ethiopia, Libya, Iran, and Turkey or Gomer. And it's excuse me. And it's also a guard to the house of Togarmah, these nations that are in that region that I read off, old Soviet bloc nations, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. So the Most High is stirring up a spirit of division, and he is setting Egyptian against Egyptian, pursuant to Isaiah 19:2. So the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord, and we'll get that. Let's go here first. Well, let's talk about something else. Turkey and Russia has an oil pipeline deal underway in which they're able to subsidize oil and petroleum prices so they can get a better deal being in bed with the bear, or Russia and Turkey, along with Iran. And this pipeline is going to run through Europe. France is on board with it, along with Germany and United Kingdom, or Britain. So they're beginning to turn on the great whore. And Iran, along with Russia, are suffering economic sanctions. So what do you think that does to the relationship with these European nations that are supposed to be NATO allies? So they're supposed to be NATO allies, but now they're in bed with Russia. Saudi Arabia, along with Russia, Turkey, are transitioning into the yuan for its currency. So they're beginning to turn down or reject the U.S. petrodollar. So that's beginning to push us forward faster towards Armageddon, or the Third World War, solely based on economics. So these nations are suffering from the economic sanctions that are being placed on Russia and Iran because they are a part of the deal on this oil pipeline. Let's go here. So these NATO nations are fractured, and they're turning against the daughter of Babylon, Lady Liberty, America. Obadiah, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee hath deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So these men of their confederacy, their allies, are turning against the daughter of Babylon, have brought thee even to the border. So they are challenging the great whore, America. Back to Obadiah 7. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is no understanding in him. So they are receiving economic and military financial support from America. So they eat the bread of the daughter of Babylon, the great whore, and they have laid a wound under America because they're in bed with the enemies of the daughter of Babylon. They're in bed with Iran and Russia, despite the U.S. imposing economic sanctions on Persia or Iran and Russia. See, verse 1, Obadiah, verse 1, the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. So these nations are rising up against Lady Liberty. And the nations of the European Union and NATO collectively are not seeing eye to eye with each other. Join unto the other nations that have in-house fighting. So they are a kingdom divided, partly strong and partly weak. Daniel 2:42. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And that's what they're doing right now, falling apart, fighting against each other. And these other nations, or the so-called men of their confederacy of Lady Liberty, have begun to ditch the U.S. petrodollar as the dominant currency. Let's go to Matthew 12:15. No, not 15. Got to go down to 25. Matthew 12:25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? So you got NATO countries against European Union, European Union nations against NATO. They're fighting in-house, and they're also fighting against other Edomites and other nations that are joined unto them. And the European Union and NATO collectively are at odds against the bear, Russia. And what makes this Bible amazing is Turkey is supposed to be a NATO nation, along with Poland that was added as NATO nations, Turkey and Poland. But they are biting off on this economic deal. Saudi Arabia is supposed to be an ally of America. Now, Saudi Arabia is not a NATO nation, but they're supposed to be a Middle Eastern ally. But they are beginning to ditch the U.S. petrodollar and transition over to the Chinese yuan. Russia and China and North Korea and Iran are establishing an alliance together. So this place is finished. Let's go to here and we'll get ready to close out. We're going to go to Ezekiel 38, the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, verse 1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. That's the bear, Russia. And say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So they are mobilizing for war. Armored troops, and armored cavalry troops, missile power, naval power. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is a guard unto Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya, Turkey, and the former Soviet bloc nations, or the house of Togarmah and the north quarters. So that is a perfect balance of a kingdom divided against itself. The last leg of the revised Roman Empire, and the feet and the toes, which represents the end of the age under Esau, Edom. So they're preparing for Armageddon, the third and final world war. Let's go here. Ezekiel 39:1. Therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back, and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. So Russia is going to think that they could take a spoil. Whoever controls the children of Israel rule over the world. All of the ancient kingdoms understood this and took the Israelites into their possession. But the Most High is going to smite Gog and Magog, or the feet of the bear, Mother Russia. And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee, and I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. Thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord power. And I will send a fire on Magog, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am the Lord. So they're going to be destroyed with fire. The Most High is going to rain fire upon them by the chariots, or the so-called UFOs. Let's get two more. We're going to go back to Daniel 2. So this kingdom is going to be destroyed by Yahushua, who's coming back with the chariots of fire, the chariots of the Lord, the so-called UFOs. Daniel 2:44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And as the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So how is it going to break in pieces these other kingdoms? Let's go here. Right here. Daniel 2:45. So Yahushua is that great rock, or that stone, that's going to put an end to the heathen and Gentile rulership, which is currently under Edom. Daniel 2:45. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God have made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So that great stone is Yahushua that's going to break in pieces the other nations. Let's go back up to verse 44, and then we're going to go to the New Testament. Daniel 2 and 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So we're going to go to Matthew 21 and 43. And this is Yahushua speaking. So the times of the Gentiles and their time to rule on the earth is almost fulfilled. And Esau, Edom is at the top of the rulership of the heathen and Gentile nations. So this is that stone, Yahushua. And he's speaking here in this passage. Matthew 21 and 43. Therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of the Most High shall be taken from you and given to a nation bringing forth the fruits thereof. And whosoever shall fall on this stone shall be broken, but on whosoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. So he was speaking to wicked Israelites of the sect of chief priests and Pharisees. Not all of the Pharisees and scribes and Sadducees were wicked, but this particular sect was. But the key point is that stone that's going to break in pieces the kingdoms under Edom. These wicked Israelites had vowed and said that their king is Caesar. That's why he was rebuking them and telling them that Edom is going to be broken to pieces or crushed. And he's telling them in a dark saying that this stone, it represents him coming back to establish a new holy mountain, a new righteous government. We'll read it one last time and we'll go ahead and close out. Yahushua is speaking, Matthew 21 and 44. And whosoever shall fall on this stone shall be broken, but on whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. Let's get one more. We're going to go to, so Yahushua is coming back to take down Edom. And the other nations are going to be beaten to powder by that great stone or that great rock, Yahushua Hamashiach. 2nd Esdras 16 and 11. 2nd Esdras 16 and 9. A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? He shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder? That's Yahushua coming back, that great stone. Let's get one more. 2nd Esdras 13. Not sure which verse it is. 2nd Esdras 13. Let's start reading at verse 5. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the men that came out of the sea. That's Yahushua coming back with the chariots of the Lord, the host of heaven. But I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself a great mountain, and flew upon it, but I could not see the region or place wherein the hill was graven, and I could not. So this great mountain is Yahushua that's coming back, the great stone or rock that's going to establish a new holy mountain or a new holy government that's going to rule in righteousness. And all the thrones or kingdoms of the earth is going to be subdued under his feet, pursuant to 1 Corinthians 15 and 24. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. All praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakadash. And the title of this lesson is We're at the End of the Feet of the Great Bear, the end of Esau Edom's kingdom of rulership. See you on the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharallah and Abad Babao. Shalom.